on really how this event will go. Actually, before I get to that, I want to thank some county officials here for setting up voter registration. That would be Joanna Francesca and Mary Paul. They also have very generously allowed Allison Jensen, a senior at Burney High School, to participate in that, so she's getting some good civic duty and government awareness in that. We're trying to get Allison, and I believe it's going to be set up to set up a little table at one of the next home football games to help register voters who aren't registered in Shasta County. So that's pretty neat. And so before I turn it over to Sarah here, just to run down, Sarah has a few questions to ask for all the candidates. They get, I believe, 2 minutes to answer those questions. And feel free, anybody in the audience, if you have any questions, there is the table set up. Just write down the questions on the note cards that are on the table and just put them in that basket. And we'll go through and pull a few of those out to have Sarah ask those questions after she's asked the one she's already prepared. So I believe that's it. Ready to go. Sarah, right? Do I leave this with them?
I think you should.
Okay.
I just want to thank everybody who's here. This isn't part of my assignment, but it's just so wonderful because those of us who are putting this on have really never done this before. And we really appreciate all of you coming and appreciate these 4 people. It's really pretty special for us. So. Okay, now what my plan is here is if Teri, when I do the first question, we'll start with you and go down the line, and then the next question we'll start with Ignacio and go, is that okay? Okay, great. Okay, and these questions are not just mine. They were compiled by members of the PTA, boosters, and a number of people. Okay, question 1. Please tell us why you want to be on the school board. What will your priorities be for the coming year?
Okay, it's easy. Why I want to be on the school board is the students. I am student focused. Every decision I make is with the students in mind. We just had our board meeting where we set our goals for this coming year. Some of the goals we set as a board were to maintain fiscal solvency, continue to utilize technology to improve the instructional practices in curricular areas, keep our schools safe, address bullying, implement ALICE training. Students will graduate from all district schools being college and career ready, increase students that complete A through G requirements so they're ready to go straight to university, continue positive communications and trust between all employee groups, and really foster a positive school culture. And the last goal being increase awareness of cultural differences and diversities and address student trauma. Really in this district, we look at the whole child, right? It's not just about academics and curriculum. It's about their social, emotional well-being and everything that goes into their family. So we're really excited about some of the professional development we've done in the last few years to address the whole child. So those are our goals for the 2018-2019 school year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ignacio Venegas. A lot of you know me as Iggy. It's my nickname since I've been a little kid in this district. When I first ran for the school board, almost 9 years ago, I said that I wanted to be on the school board to help kids, help bridge the gap with the Native Americans and the Mexican population here in this community. And that I wanted to look for money and grants for the school district. And that hasn't changed for me. And as you can see, what I always say is I believe that the ownership to the board, and I still believe this with all my heart, I believe that the ownership to this board is the community, because I'm always asking the community to vote for me. Vote for me, I will do this. Vote for me, I'll help you. So I don't have no problems when I have parents that have issues call me. In the last 8 or 9 years, many parents have called and said, hey, we got this problem, and I've given them the right chain of command or right direction to go take care of the situation. So I'm very approachable for the parents, trying to bridge that gap. That's been always one of those things that I wanted to do, is bridge a gap for the community and the school board, the school district. And one of the things that I ran on first was to bring grants and money. And so in the last 8 years, I can say that in this district, with my connections to the Native Americans, because a lot of people don't know how to go about getting money from the casinos and Native Americans, we brought in over $100,000 just with the connections of people that I know on how to do that. And this doesn't benefit the Native kids. It benefits, I got 30 seconds, it benefits everyone. $52,926 in books, colorizers, computers, cots, field trips, grant instruments, and surveillance cameras. In 2016-17, we got $10,000 for a sound system, woodworking equipment, software, novels, and Legos. In 2017-18, $42,379 books, computers, water bottle fill stations. And then one day I was over here at the special needs center, because a lot of people don't know I have a special needs daughter. They didn't have equipment. So I had to apply for the grant. That was hard to do, right?
I'll try to save some time and go back to today. I'm Bill Myers, and I'll start with the second part first. My priority in the coming year is to be me, and that is why I have to answer the first part this way. I don't know that I want to be on the school board. It seems like a lot of work. It seems like there's an awful lot of things that I don't know. There's a learning curve that looks like the tsunami coming ashore. The reality is, though, there are people who know me, who know what I've done in a lot of volunteer capacities over the last 15 years, who have seen my personality, my skill set, my education, my background in public education, and my passion, not just for the students, but at all levels, because we say we want to make sure it's great for the students, but we're not taking care of the teachers, or the administrators, or the parents, or the most marginalized members of our community that have a hard time imagining why they should be invested in public education when somehow they just can't put together the 2 and 2 that makes 4, that the way we raise our children today depends on the kind of community we're in 5 and 10 and 20 and 50 years from now. So I am me, working hard on staying me, and there are some people who understand the workings of the district in a much more intimate way than I do, who have said they think that I could serve effectively in bringing who I am to who we are trying to be as a community.
Well, thank you for coming out. I appreciate it. I'll start with why I wanted to be on the board, and like Bill, sometimes wonder why I want to. You guys probably know that better than anybody, but it can be a challenge. Over the last year or so, I know a lot of people in the education community, in the schools, and parents as well. Talking to them, I was just really struck with a lot of the challenges that the district is facing. A lot of them I didn't know about. I think many parents don't know about a lot of the challenges that are facing this district. And I just felt this overwhelming need to see if I could help. So my priorities will be, well, the other part was I wanted to make sure that Burney was represented. I wasn't sure if Randy Aller was going to run again. He's getting a little older and health issues, and there were some questions of whether or not he was going to run, and I wanted to make sure that somebody from Burney was running. Also, I have 1 child and 3 grandchildren in the district, so I have a vested interest there. Priorities is pretty much everybody says the focus needs to be on the students, and we need to have a healthy and safe and effective learning environment, both for the struggling kids and the well-performing kids. So that's one of my main focuses, is going to try and get behavioral specialists and counselors at all the sites, get more of that, get more professional help in those areas to deal with the behavioral challenges that we're facing. That seems to be one of the main priorities that the district, or the teachers at least, have expressed. That's good for now.
It's like a marathon. Okay, Ignacio gets to start the next question. Question 2. This is sort of a fun one. Please share your experience as a student in the public school. As a board member, you will be setting policy for the district. Does your experience as a student influence that? And if so, how?
Well, my experience as a student in the public schools, I was born and raised here. You can trace my lineage to a teepee circle in Ajimai State Park. I went through the school system, graduated from the school system. So I've experienced the school system from, I don't know if a lot of you know this about me, but I grew up poor. And I understand there's a lot more people out there that's in the same situation I am as a student, because when they're doing the numbers, some say 70% of our district's poverty is poverty, 70%. Some say 60, I don't know. But I can relate to those students that in this district, growing up in this district poor. And I can relate to going to school just like many of you can. How many of you ever went to school hungry? How many of you went to school sharing the clothes with your brothers and sisters the next day? Or wondering, hey, you're going to wear that on Monday, I'm going to wear that on Tuesday. How many in school went with holes in their shoes? There are kids today that still go through that. And those are the kids we want to reach, that we're trying to focus more on, because if they want us, my experience I've learned being on this board kind of goes two parts here, is we deal with those kids every day. And they want to say there's one cookie cutter system for teaching everybody, but there isn't. We got to deal with the emotional effects of that child, of what they're coming to school, whether they're at home, they're dealing with parents separating, drugs, abuse, any little thing that could be happening in their little lives. They come to their school the next day, and we got to nurture their little minds, and we don't know what they're dealing with. So I can relate to that. So when I see a student come in for expulsions or different things, I think about what that student goes through and what that student experiences in school, and I want to make sure that everybody has an experience to learn and get nurtured in school. And we try to nurture everybody, so I feel like it's just numbers here, but sorry, man. What do I have to say?
My experience in...
Don't hate me. You with the timer. Sorry.
My experience is that I was one of those children that was tough to keep in class, not because I would run off, but because I'd be removed. In first grade, no relation, it was Miss Myers who called me into the hallway one day and asked me the truth about a situation that had been occurring at the bus stop, and I didn't know better than to tell her the truth. So that was the beginning of a long career. In second and third grade, I loved the red Carmen Ghia with the wood trim dash that our principal drove me home in on those occasions. All the way through my senior year, when Miss Driscoll overheard a comment I made to a student next to me and said, "Mr. Myers, you'll need to speak with me personally before you come back to class." I'm not a slow person. I just kind of pretended I didn't know what she was talking about, and then she finally said, "You need to leave now." And so I went and spoke to her personally and apologized for what seemed to be a really funny comment at the time. One of the things I remember most about that is that there were safety nets. There was plenty of personnel in the Wilmington School District in Southwest Ohio that when you had a troubled kid, not a troubled kid, just a troubled kid, that you had someone to pick up the slack, you had someone to sit with them, you had someone to drive them home. You had a lot of professional adults handy to work with. That's no longer the case. We have a lot of specialists, but we also have more budgetary constraints and regulatory stuff that comes down on us every year that limits the ability of folks to do it professionally, to do it with paid staff. My vision includes getting a lot of folks in this community to continue to volunteer, as many of us already do, but to expand that so that that safety net is expanded and reinforced. Tell me when, Trish.
When you start is when you start talking. I wait on you.
First word.
Yeah, well, this is actually a lot more similar than I thought it would be, because I struggled in school, especially from about 6th grade on. I struggled, I didn't like school, I didn't want to be there. And so therefore my academics suffered, and I was a behavior, I could be a behavior problem, I'm pretty bad sometimes. But it was interesting, when my dad taught for 30 years, and so the teaching profession was not a mystery to me. And when I decided to get my teaching credential in midlife, I hadn't decided yet, my dad was mentoring me and encouraging me to do that. And I said, "But Dad, I hated school. why should I be a teacher? I wasn't any good in school and I hated it. He poked me in the chest and he said, that's why you should be a teacher. And I said, what? And he said, because a lot of people that get into education, they enjoyed the school environment, obviously, they were good at it, they wanted to continue that. And he said, because you could understand struggling kids, you probably could bring a different perspective to it. And I think maybe I can bring that to the board as well. I mean, I went through a lot of challenges, and I have a strong family and a strong parental support. I just can't imagine what it's like for these kids nowadays with the poverty that Iggy was talking about, not having the resources that Bill and I have both mentioned now, the behavioral specialist and enough people there. I can't imagine what it's like especially these young men, these guys that have no direction and their school is not for them. We really need to take this seriously and get the resources we need. And maybe with my perspective, maybe I can help with that.
Okay, so my high school experience, I grew up in Los Angeles, so I went to a large comprehensive high school, right? But I was in an alternate program that was called School Within a School, and that taught me that all kids learn differently, right? So it's really important that we keep all our programs in place. Advanced placement to remediation. We need to address all students' needs because all kids learn differently. The most important thing that I think is that we address the needs of all our students because, like Iggy said, Ignacio said, we have almost 70% free and reduced lunch in this district. So we have very high poverty. And with high poverty comes a lot of emotional trauma that we need to address for our children. So with our professional development that we've done in the last couple of years, I think we're really starting to address that and look at the whole child. So my experience really taught me that everyone needs different learning areas. So yeah, thank you.
I think
Okay, Bill, question number 3. This is sort of a long one, but they all have it written down in front of them, so it's not a memory test. Okay, we have 4 comprehensive schools in our district and 5 alternative education sites. Which ones are you most familiar with and why? How do you plan to gain information about the other sites in order to be sure that their needs are met?
Ready?
You are.
Okay. We're worried about you, Trish. Sorry. So in order of most to less, Burney Elementary School is where my wife is a teacher. It's where I'm a volunteer. It's where we've been engaged in advocacy journalism over the last 3 years. It's where we've poured heart and soul, more so than Fall River High School, which is second. But that's where my wife started her career. It's where my children were moved in the middle of their freshman and junior years. And so we committed to make sure that we could make their educational experience as positive as possible through a lot of involvement. I would say it's pretty much a time between Burney High School and Soldier Mountain, knowing staff in both places, having had the opportunity to work with some adjunct staff in both places, students, through other involvements, other volunteer places where I get a chance to work with them. And then probably the one I'm least familiar with that I am somewhat familiar with is Fall River Elementary. And so then it's a big drop off from there. Although Community Day, I have had some involvement with both staff and students there. The answer to the last part of that, how do you plan to gain information about the other sites in order to be sure that their needs are met? The first answer that came to mind when we got these is very carefully. The great challenge of being on a board that is charged with setting policy that is then enacted by administrators and on down through the line is you do not risk, if you can at all help it, having someone feel that they can jump the chain of command. That they're in a position to have the ear of someone further up that chain of command and get something done without necessarily going through channels. And so while you want to gather information, while you want to be educated by people that are actually front line there, you also have to be very careful about the relationships that you're building among the staff, not between them and an individual board member. Thank you.
Well, I have taught at all four of the main schools and comprehensive sites as a substitute teacher, and I think at 3 of the alternative sites as a substitute teacher. That was 10 years ago, but I've taught there, and then my kids and grandkids go here to Burney, so I'm most familiar with the Burney schools, but I know staff at all the schools, and I'm pretty familiar with the Fall River High School, especially the vocational education program because of the fair and everything. But one thing that, if elected, that I'm going to try and set out as a goal is to visit each site at least once a semester during the normal school day. Let the principal and the teacher know, but I'd like to visit classes and be there, you know, during a normal day. I think that's one of the best ways to get information about what's happening there, is actually go there during the normal school day. And that's that.
Okay, so the way I feel about this question is we're one district, right? We're Fall River Joint Unified School District, and that means we're Burney and Fall River. Every student is important, whether they're in Burney or Fall River. One of the examples that happened a couple years ago is we had a donor donate a lot of money to get one-on-one devices at Fall River High School. So as a board, we were thankful for that donation, but our first thought was, how are we going to get the money for Burney to have the students in the Burney side have that same advantage? So we worked with our CEO and our superintendent, and we brainstormed, and we did find the money to get the children in Burney the same advantage of the one-on-one devices with the Chromebooks. And those have been so successful. The kids feel, since they have their own device, that it's an equalizer, right? So not only the kids with everything have the Chromebooks, every kid in the district has a Chromebook. So when we look at the district, as I said before, we're one district. We care about all our kids the same. My children went to Fall River, but I've had a lot of activities down here in Burney also. You know, through the years, my kids were in the schools for 20 years. How many kids? I had 4 kids go through. So I have had a lot of experience with both sides of the district. I've been on the board for 17 years. When I say that, I'm like, 17 years, that went fast, right? But during those years, I've got to know the community in Burney and Fall River, and they're both fantastic communities, and I look forward to serving both sides again for the next 4 years if I'm reelected.
That one's hard to follow. But yeah, first time my wife says, if you're wearing blue, everybody's going to think you're a Fall River kid. It's not true. My green was dirty because at graduation I wore green for both sides. I don't look at it that way. I try to just represent both schools. I try to represent Burney. I cheer for Burney. I know we have, one of the main things that I always hear is like, hey, we need somebody from Burney. We need somebody from Burney on the board. We need somebody from Burney. And one of the things that in the last 9 years that I wanted to make sure is I was visible for Burney. And I was visible for Burney at the promotions. Since I started on the promotions, graduations, some of you probably even got me on your fireplace right now. I don't know. A lot of you probably do with your kids. I see a lot of you that have kids that go through here, so you know what I'm talking about. You see me very visible throughout the district. I visit the sites. Not as much as I like to, but it seems like when a board member comes around, everybody's like, oh, board member. And I was like, no, it shouldn't be like that. I'm just here to see how it works, to get informed information, to make a good informed decision. How can I make good decisions if I don't know how everything works? So I like to see everything works. I have visited the sites, and when you go visit the sites, Marcy I think does it the best. How many know anyone here? And everybody raises their hands, and you got to name the kids. So I'm like, oh man, the kids get mad if you don't know them. So it's a blessing to be on the school board. Learned a lot the last 9 years. I learned there's a lot to it. It's not just like Teri's saying, one board or one board for one district, it's one board for everybody. And we have did that as a board, and I'm very proud of that we got devices in everybody's hands, both sides of the district. It wasn't just one side of the district. I'm very proud of that. That's a big accomplishment. Our kids are very well ahead of the curve in technology in a lot of the places. And I don't think Reading has some devices for their kids, and our kids do. So I believe we have done a really good job these last 8 years that I've been able to do a great job. Just all right. Start joking when I get nervous. Thank you, folks.
Okay, we're going down to 1 minute or.
We blew it.
I didn't think I was going to take that long.
Okay, so question number 4. As a board member, what challenges will you face, and how do you plan to meet these in the coming year?
Well, probably the biggest challenge I have, and Bill mentioned this too, is just the ins and outs and the administrative side of running the district and what the board does. And Iggy and Teri, obviously, with their experience, already have that. I know a little bit about that from my working with the Bacon Board of Trustees. I'm the manager of the district, but I report to the board, so I'm familiar with the Brown Act and how a public entity board works, so that helps. But Mr. Hawkins has a great staff there, and I'm sure they're really good at bringing new board members along. But so you can do a lot of research on the internet. I've already started doing that on school boards in particular, and kind of how they operate and what the responsibilities of the board are. So I'm learning more of that, but I think that is kind of a daunting challenge at first. I have 1 more minute. I can feel it, believe me. But I just wanted to say one thing that I didn't get to say earlier is one of my priorities is supporting what already is being done in this district. There's some really good, I want to make this clear too, I'm not running out here to throw somebody off the board or to come in and just try and change everything and get all angry. There's some really good things happening here. There's a lot of out-of-the-box thinking, especially right here, and I want to continue to support those kind of things, like what Carter Rose is doing with the embedded 4-H program at Burney High School. We've had a really good vocational ed program up in Fall River for decades, and vocational ed is very important to me. That's one of the areas I was credentialed in. So, and like what Bill's doing with the mentoring programs and those type of things, and building, just volunteers, building relationships with these kids. We need to keep that kind of thing going.
That time goes fast. So the biggest challenge I see, and from being on the board for 17 years, is budget. So California ranks 46th in school funding in the nation. We're about $1,200 less per student than the national average. One of the things I do is I lobby in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. for fair funding for schools for the students of California. I will continue my work in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. For example, we used to get a lot of money with the Forest Reserve, right? Now that money's almost gone. I'm willing to have the conversation on the impact that these cuts have on rural schools in particular. We always keep our eye on the budget. I'm looking at Teresa Spooner right now. She's our business woman guru, and money can change so fast in education. You'll have a program in place, and Sacramento will make the decision to cut that program mid-year. Well, you already have the program, the teachers, the students, engaged in that program. So we have to have a healthy reserve in order to keep that program going. Most people don't know, but about 80 to 85% of a school budget goes to salary and compensation. So you only have about 15% of that budget left to do everything else in the school district. We value our staff. We've given raises in the last 5 years of about 20%. And we're really proud of the fact that we've done that because we respect our staff and we want them to be compensated fairly. So, Yeah, so the biggest budget, or the biggest challenge, I think, is always keeping an eye on that money so we can stay fiscally solvent, so we can provide the programs and the academics that our children need in the Fall River Valley.
Does sound like a broken record. I'm just gonna agree with Teri on that part of the funding, because I know how hard it is to not have money to do what you want to do. That's why we've looked into different areas and different grants, and that's what I think one of the challenges would be, just to continue to look for other grants that we can supplement funding, because people don't realize, but after a little while, I didn't realize there was going to be that much money either, but that's quite a bit of money that can come into the district, over $100,000 extra money for sound systems, books, texts, and different things that our kids need. And there's more out there that our kids still need, so hopefully we can continue pushing that. And I appreciate our great staff for that, because they're the ones that continue to do that. I'm just there going, hey, don't forget that grant. Hey, don't forget that grant, it's coming up. And they do the hard work, and they put it in, and I appreciate it about our staff. And one of the things I think is a challenge is safety. With all the school shootings that are happening nowadays, and you can't just say it's never going to happen here. We're too small to happen. It happens anywhere. A shooter can come into a school at any time, and that's one thing that, as a board, I can say that I'm very proud of. Is we've been focused on the safety front for a little while now. We just haven't been trying to play catch up. We've been focused on that for a while with trainings. Was that the ALICE training? ALICE training, different trainings we're bringing in, and that was one of our goals this year, safety. And I'm proud of the fact that our district employees can get behind that and want to keep our kids safe. Everybody wants to keep their kids safe, and I believe that's one of the biggest challenges, is you send your kids to school, you want them to be safe, and you want them to come home safe. And I believe that's one of the challenges nowadays, more than just as much as funding, is safety of our kids. And that's one of the things I think would continue to be a challenge for this district, the safety is, because just like we're going to have a meeting with hopefully pretty soon, with the rest of our community, and let them know why we're focused on safety. And I believe that it's good to let the people know why we're focused on it and why we want to keep our kids safe. Yeah.
So I took this question and wrote an answer that's very personal to me. There's some particular personal challenges that we're facing as a household at the moment, not the least of which is generating household income. Some of you may know that I was recently, my employment was terminated. So one of the greatest challenges is to generate enough income and still maintain what I do for hospice, for the food pantry, for the elementary school here, through the advocacy journalism that we do through the Intermountain News, the volunteerism that we do at Fall River High School, blessedly with the best seats in the house for Bulldog football. Sorry, I did say that in Burney, I know. We sing in the community choir, and maybe we'll end up with a school board. So the question is, how do you plan to meet these? I have to say no, and I'm terrible at it. There are a lot of folks who are used to me saying yes, that if something needs done, we find a way to do it. And we've done that in this community for 15 and a half years. We've done it in a variety of other communities over the last 35. I'm very confident in my ability to meet those challenges. But the reality is, I can't read that question and feel like I left here being honest with you if I didn't say one of the great challenges that Shelley and I face right now is continue to pay our bills in the absence of my about the same chunk of income as what she brings in from Burney Elementary. Teri, be first on this thing.
Yes, okay.
That was number 4.
That was number 4. Okay, so now we have 2 from our community here. And thank you, Mr. Bauer, for arranging these and sorting through them all. All right, so this question says, what role could the board have in recruiting and retaining qualified teachers and staff to our rural district? Would you like to hear it again?
Yeah, please.
What role could the board have in recruiting and retaining qualified teachers and staff to our rural district?
Okay, so one of the things I think we've done in the last few years in negotiations is we've tried to get our teachers up to the median salary in Shasta County. So that's going to be attractive to teachers by raising our salary and our compensation and benefits. One of the things that I think keeps teachers and staff is showing respect to them, right? Supporting them in every way as a board member, supporting them in the schools, supporting them with professional development, and really caring about them, and in negotiations, really showing that we care and that we negotiate for fairness. One of the things I work for California School Boards Association down in Sacramento. I work down there about 2 days a week. And one of the things we've been working on is legislation to encourage teachers to come teach in rural areas. We've been doing advocacy on behalf of teachers by talking about tax credits, low interest loans for housing in rural areas, and really, and also having their student teaching be in their 4-year degree instead of having it outside the degree. That way, it's easier for them to get their teaching credential and really making it worth their while for coming up here. We love the area, but we have to promote our area, right? We know it's a great place to live, so we really have to get that news out, and we can do that by paying fair compensation and like I said, supporting our teachers and staff.
Would you like to hear it again?
I wrote down, says, what role could the board have in recruiting or retaining qualified people? Is that the gist of it?
And staff to our rural district, yeah.
So that's something we've been having trouble with the last 8 years. Always people coming and going, and it's kind of crazy. We both sit on the negotiation team. So we did quite a lot of negotiation with the unions, and like Teri said, we believe in paying our people fair, trying to meet at least what Reading gets, getting them up to where they need to be. And we've done that as a board. We've approved it. We went on. We've given raises, and we're trying to meet that need there. So I believe that's one way the board can have. What role could the board? That's one role that the board could have in recruiting and retaining people, is paying them what's fair. Because one saying you always have is, if you want to get good people, pay them good, pay them fair. And if you want to keep good people, pay them what they're worth. And I believe it with all my heart. We all work. We all believe we're worth millions of dollars, right? But you know, some of our teachers that are good teachers are worth millions of dollars. They're priceless. And I believe that with all my heart, because when I was a kid, you know, it's always that one teacher that keeps you going, or that one teacher that keeps you on track, or keeps you coming to school when you want to give up. So, yeah, that's one way we can play.
Same problem we face with Mountain Valley Health Clinics, Mayor's Memorial Hospital, and even in a microcosm at hospice. There are different ways of handling this, and I don't want to take the time to compare and contrast the various ways that this has been gone about. But I will say that there is a model that has worked better than another. One that from a very early stage in the educational process gets students involved in the medical community in such a way that when they go off to college, they are still in relationships with people that are back home, that are expecting that they are going to want to come back to where they were happy growing up. And therefore, they're going to be investing back in the community that raised them. We hire those that we raise, and we raise those that we want to hire. And from the students all the way through the education system, if you notice the teachers that you know, the administrators that you know, the variety of people who have chosen to come back and invest in the community that raised them are the ones that seem to be the happiest, the healthiest, the ones that are strongest in what they're seeking to do. Certainly there's plenty of other educational opportunities out there, but there's not much that competes with folks who really enjoy their lives here. And so the more that we can invest in that, the more we can bring them along, the more we can build those long-term relationships, so that when someone finishes their student teaching in whatever program that is, wherever that has been, that they are among the top applicants that we have back here in the Fall River Joint Unified School District.
Yeah, obviously pay is a big part of it, and I know that the board has been working on bringing that along. I think, like everybody said, talking to most teachers, they probably would want more. I think everybody wants more. And And also, I'm going to go ahead and say this, but we need to look at the relationship or the disparity, however you want to mention it, however you want to term it, between administrative pay and teacher pay. It's something we need to look at. But more than just money, what I heard from a lot of teachers this last year or so that I've been talking to them is that, you know, we need when I talk about a safe and effective learning environment in the classroom, that's important for our students, it's important for our teachers too. They have to be in a safe and effective classroom environment, and it's not entirely up to them to create that. They need the administration help backing them up, and they need the support staff. What we've talked about, what I've talked about tonight especially, is the behavioral specialists. They need that kind of support to help them with the challenges they're facing, and I think that would go a long way to improving morale. I'm a bit of a cynic, unfortunately, but the other thing, it seems like, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, it seems to be harder to be able to recruit people to the rural environment. It used to be, a lot of us, well, a lot of you were born here, but a lot of us came up here because we wanted to. This is where we wanted to be. And it seems to be getting a little harder. PG&E has a fair amount of turnaround because the people will come up from the valley and they think they like it here, and then, the winters or whatever else, and some of them don't even stay. So I think we need to recruit in areas like Chico State and maybe some other colleges where maybe some of the kids already come from a rural area or they're thinking in that direction, and that would help.
And one thing I want to add really quickly is that the teacher shortage is throughout California. It's not just here in our district. The projected shortage of teachers is about 60,000 teachers in the state of California for next year. So, we're not the only ones that are having this struggle.
Thank you. Okay, here's our last question. And Ignacio gets to start it. I like this one. The only downside to it is it has the word realistic in it. So if you want to ignore the word realistic, feel free. Do you have any realistic dreams you feel the board could achieve for district, high school, elementary, alt ed? So do you have any realistic dreams you feel the board could achieve within our district?
Do you have any realistic dreams that you feel the board could achieve?
Yes. Realistic dreams you feel the board could achieve, and then they add for the district, high schools, elementary schools, or all.
Oh, wow.
Realistic dreams.
Well, it was always hard going first. I guess one of the dreams that I had as a board member, or as a board member that could achieve, it's just be me, for who I can be, that I can bring to the board, and work together, because a board that's divided won't stand. And as a person coming on the board, when I first got on the board, the dream I wanted to do is just to work with the board and work towards something. And I believe the dreams I'm getting towards is we're working together to make it a better place for our kids to go to school, better education, better opportunities for them to learn, better things, better preparedness. When our kids can go to college and be prepared the first year of college, I'm good with that. That's a dream that we've achieved. Is I want them to go to college and say, wow, I'm so glad. One of the people that they always say is English. I'm so glad that Mr. House was tough on us, because this first year of English was a breeze. And that's how I want the kids to feel. And that's what I want to continue towards, is that when our kids get to college, that they feel like they've gotten the education they deserve and they needed to make their dreams realistic. And as long as that happens, if I continue working towards that, I believe that's one of the things I like to continue to work towards.
About 3 years ago, we got involved in some things that I call advocacy journalism that you've already heard me mention. One of the things that I have as a continued dream for the entire district is to let people know all the good things that are already happening. I found that there were small groups from Rotary, small groups from Lions, small groups from veterans, small groups from any number of other community organizations, and just ad hoc volunteer committees that were pitching in and helping with things that the vast majority of the community had no clue about. They do now, because Craig Harrington puts it on the front page of the paper. Largely because he has just beautiful photographs to go with the story. Okay, so that was a plug for Forward Photo. You can find us at www. Never mind. But that's where that vision comes in. And I think it's very realistic because we've seen it work. We've seen a sense of pride in Burney Elementary that has picked up. And not just because I walk down the hall and there's the front pages of all the Intermountain Newses on the bulletin board of the main hallway. But when you look at where we were here, I think it's fair to say 5 years ago. Those words, program improvement, still haunt me. The variety of things that meant cannot be fathomed by people who didn't live under that on a day-by-day basis, educating our children. Things are different. Things, I believe, can continue to be different, and I think our community wants to be proud of our public schools.
Yeah, I think we all dream of living in a better world or a better community. So the task is, how do we make that realistic? How do we make those dreams come true? And like Bill, I want to comment on that we're already doing that. You know, when I was getting my credential, I wrote a paper about this actually. I was amazed at how much, and again, a lot of people may not realize this, but we tend to focus on what's bad, but I wrote this paper and gave examples of how in this town, in my little town, clergy, law enforcement, the school district, community organizations like Rotary and Lions, how we were all working together for our youth. And we do a lot of that already, and I think hopefully we're seeing the fruits of some of that labor. But we just need to continue with that, and we need to keep thinking outside the box and coming up with unique ideas and just keep plugging away. So, but what we're up against, the problem is, you know, the substance abuse and the broken families and the poverty. And that's not, well, hopefully some of that will go away or be diminished, but it's not going to go away entirely. So we need to, as I said, we need to keep using these kind of relationships and these kind of programs and just keep plugging away, and that's how we make it realistic.
So I get mushy at dreams, so I'm going to try not to get mushy when I'm talking about dreams. My dream for this district is that every child feels precious and loved, that every child has the same opportunities to go on to higher education or technical work or whatever they want to do, that they're college and career ready when they graduate from our school. My daughter was lucky enough to go to Harvard, and she did not have one struggle, and I owe that to the teachers of this district, right? They gave her the tools to be successful at Harvard, as they have given kids tools to be successful in vocational education or at a junior college, many different educational avenues. We had a Hispanic boy that had gotten a couple very big scholarships to go to Chico State. This changed his family generationally. They had come from Mexico. His parents had maybe elementary school education, and now he's studying to be an engineer. Those are the dreams that are coming true in our school district. These kids are being changed generationally. Their parents dreamed the dream for them, and we have the opportunity to make that dream come true. And I'm going to stop because I'm going to start crying.
I am not the person that was supposed to wrap this up. Is the person who is supposed to wrap this up here? Well, maybe I am. If I am, I would just like to say how wonderful it is that you four members of our community would come and spend your evening with us and take the time to answer these questions. I'm just moved that we have people who really do care about our community, because I'm like Teri, I could start crying at any minute because I can think of individuals who I'm thinking of, and I can think of a child who grew up with my son and is now on the school board, so it's pretty amazing. Anyway, and thanks to all of you for coming. I hope that you will all hang around because there's a whole lot of goodness back there. And I assume that the four of you are all approachable.
Yes.
If you want to go, well, I really wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks so much. Wonderful to have